Hello, my name is Delanie Beach, and I will be presenting my novel in progress, The Samsa Files. The Samsa Files seeks to contextualize the psychological complexity of Franz Kafka's character, Gregor Samsa, by imagining a human past for him before the metamorphosis. This research-based novel poses as a collection of non-fictional documents, including interviews, diary entries, letters, and medical statements, which follow the events preceding Samsa's death. Gregor's characterization, worldview, and psychological disturbances act as a mirror to Kafka's own. Now I'm going to read from this message document, which is acting as a prologue to the piece. A message from the castle. The following contains documentation of the events surrounding the transformation of one Gregor Samsa, deceased. The distribution of these documents goes against the wishes of the patient, who before his death expressed a desire for all traces of his existence to be burned, unread. Given the evidence of Samsa's psychological disturbances, which led to his physical decline and eventual death, the keeper of the files has every reason to doubt the sincerity of his will. It is in the interests of research and the preservation of memory that these ephemera have been gathered and made into a case file by the Chief Inspector, reorganized and annotated by myself, and approved for publication by the castle. We present this strange medical, psychological, and physical case to you, honorable reader. Make of it what you will. Candidly, the Keeper of the Files, 1934. Transcript. Interview with Frau Grubach, June 3rd, 1924. Inspector. You were the one who found the body? Grubach. Yes, at the time I was working as a charwoman for the Samsa household. It was my duty to clean his room. Can you describe it? It was flat and dry, very thin. He ate practically nothing towards the end. Sound of pen on paper. Was it a human body? I can't honestly say, Herr Inspector. Did it resemble a human? In some ways, but for the most part, no. What did the body resemble? Something, well, monstrous. Can you be more specific? He had a lot of very thin legs, and his skin was hard, armor-like. But his eyes... Go on. His eyes were human. Tatra Mountain Sanatorium, intake form. Examination date, 20th of August, 1907. Patient name, Gregor Samsa. Age, 20 years. Height, 181 centimeters. Weight, 49.8 kilograms. Temperature, 38.8 degrees Celsius. Heart rate resting, 42 beats per minute. Heart rate standing, 90 beats per minute. Circumference of waist at navel, 63 centimeters. Circumference of chest at nipples, 78 centimeters. Notes. Severely malnourished. Ribs, spine, and clavicle clearly defined. Shoulder blades protruding, wing-like. Breast slightly raised, both halves of chest equally developed but weak. On the physical grounds of habitus aesthetic. Dramatic difference in heart rate sitting versus walking indicates muscle loss. Should be monitored. No anomalous sounds regarding heartbeat. Unpleasant gurgling in the lungs. High fever indicates infection. Pneumonia suspected. Diary entry. Gregor Samsa, 23rd of September, 1907. On the balcony of my appointed room at the sanatorium, I sit in a weak patch of morning light, scribbling to myself. Beside me, a large glass of milk rests untouched atop a short round table intended for a houseplant. At the nurse's insistence, my body is wrapped at the shoulders and knees by woolen blankets. Beneath them, I am dressed only in my trousers. The warmth of the wool is a torturous pleasure, complicated by the persistent, lingering fever which traps me here. I sweat and shiver at intervals, unable to decide which is worse. The permafrost my bones seem to carry in their marrow, or the deep, damp, inescapable claustrophobia of my unidentifiable infection. The scratchy fabric irritates my skin. A part of me wants to cast off the blanket swaddling my chest. It's wrapped too tightly, pinning my arms to my sides. The musky odor it diffuses makes breathing difficult. If the nurse catches me bare-chested outdoors before the sun is fully risen, I will be whisked inside and forced to drink a mug of beef tea, which my stomach will reject on the spot. A slight movement draws my attention to the edge of the balcony, where a battle is taking place. Near the ivy-covered railing, 2 stag beetles engage in a clumsy show of aggression. The smaller beetle's jaws are a deep shade of scarlet, while the larger boasts maroon pincers, the color of dark sweet wine. The insects creep around each other in an awkward circle, their thin legs working with odd, jerking motions. The display seems more comical than threatening. It's a wonder they manage to carry the weight of their bulky, blue-black bodies on such fragile supports. From books, I've gleaned a few scraps of information about stag beetles. If memory serves, they can live up to 7 years, a decent lifetime for an insect. Most butterflies inhabit their newly transformed bodies no longer than 2 weeks. The beetles open and close their jaws in slow motion, lurching forward and scraping their shells against one another. 2 spindly legs tangled together for a moment, like emaciated arms locking elbows to wrestle, then tug and jerk before stumbling back. The larger beetle tips onto his side, thrown off balance by his greater weight. However minuscule the difference in human terms, it is for him, just this once, a disadvantage. The whole affair seems composed by a series of accidents, though this is not the case. The beetles are fighting for a mate, just as male deer, their namesake, compete for a doe. I can't recall, however, if the female beetles are referred to as does. The smaller beetle closes his jaws around the head of the larger, thrusting upward. For a moment the impossible happens. The weaker insect suspends the larger in the air. His legs flail helplessly, his jaws part in what might be a silent scream. Held upside down, his face turned toward me, expressionless.